So today I want to address a question, really a metaphor, but also a question. And the question is, what seeds am I watering? It's kind of a famous Buddhist teaching. I mean, it comes in various forms, but I like this version of it. What seeds am I watering? And it's really a tool for thinking about how we shape the direction of our lives. You know, the question really asks us to look to it really encourages us, I should say, to look within ourselves each day with regard to our choices, our habits, our reactions. And because, you know, the Buddha likened the mind to a garden in some of his teachings, you know, and whatever we nurture in that garden will grow stronger, and whatever we neglect will wither, as with any garden. And this is just not a toss off poetic metaphor, but it's really a practical observation. And we can verify it in our own lives really day to day. When we repeatedly practice a certain or repeat a certain emotional response or behavior, it just becomes easier to fall into that pattern again. You know, it's sort of like we use this other metaphor of how we create well worn grooves in our psyche. But this is really how habits of the mind develop. You know, our daily actions water certain seeds within us, and we have some choice when we reflect on it over which seeds we want to water and which ones become the dominant features of our experience. You know, this notion of seeds, the Pali word is bija, B-I-J-A, refers to the potential within the mind for various qualities, whether that's kindness, irritation, generosity, jealous, patience, fear, harmful, not harmful emotional responses. You know, which ones do we water? You know, none of these are fixed traits. None of these are hardwired, if you will. The propensity for them may be hardwired, but they exist as only as possibilities that become stronger or weaker depending on how we activate them, depending on how much we express them. A seed of anger can grow into a strong habit if we constantly react with frustration. There's the watering metaphor. A seed of anger can grow, for example, into a strong habit if we constantly react with frustration. Alternately, a seed of patience can flourish if we constantly and gently practice pausing before responding, training ourselves to be more patient. And this understanding, this insight from the Buddha really shifts personal development from some abstract sort of mysterious thing into a series of small, manageable choices. And these are choices we don't always know we have until we begin to look into it. But instead of asking ourselves how to transform ourselves overnight, instantaneously, we focus on what we are watering right now. What are we reinforcing in this moment? When we look closely at our daily routines, we see very clearly what we're watering. We watch what's arising in terms of our emotional responses to whatever's going on, and that will tell us. That is the information we need to see what we're watering. For example, if the first thing we do in the morning is we jump out of bed, we check our phone, we turn on the news, we read our social media, you know, we're very likely watering the seeds of restlessness, of agitation, of comparison. But what if we start the day more gently, with a couple of deep breaths, a few moments of quiet, just sitting on the edge of the bed, going through some of the things we're grateful for? Are we not then watering seeds of steadiness, of appreciation, of more serenity, if you will? Much of our inner life is shaped by these subtle moments, these choices we make, and we often make them unconsciously. But we do this day to day, and well before we face major challenges. But think about how they predispose us or set us up for the major challenges. If I'm constantly watering the seeds of anger and irritation, and then something doesn't go my way, well, you know, we can predict pretty well what my response is going to be. Our emotions point to the seeds we have been nourishing. Our emotional responses point to the seeds that we are watering. When anger arises intensely and quickly, it's not because the world has suddenly become more irritating. I mean, the world is going to be what the world is going to be. It is because I have strengthened that habit of irritation over time. I have indulged it. I have gone down that path repeatedly. But what if, on the other hand, I notice myself becoming more patient or more understanding? This is not a random change. This is an intentional shift in how I respond to situations. It is the result of my intentionally watering the seeds of empathy, the seeds of mindfulness, the seeds of restraint. This process is gradual. Yes, it is subtle, but it is reliable because whatever we practice becomes our default. Whatever we practice becomes our default. Buddhism encourages us to take responsibility for this cultivation, not because we feel guilty, but because we have greater awareness. Blaming others, blaming the universe, blaming circumstances distracts us from the truth that our reactions are shaped by the seeds we have been watering. Blaming others distracts us from the truth that our reactions are shaped by the seeds we have been watering. It is the ego's attempt to offload responsibility for our strong reactions. Oh, somebody made me do it, or somebody shouldn't have treated me that way, or whatever. Even when life presents difficulty, and it will, as you know, unexpected criticism, disappointment, loss, things not going my way, I still retain influence over the seeds that I nourish, over the seeds that I water. I can feed resentment or I can feed resilience. I have a choice there. When I water self pity, I'm, I'm going to strengthen that response. When I water understanding and spaciousness, I'm going to water that response. I'm going to strengthen it. Now, this is not about suppressing emotions. It's about choosing which ones we want to respond to. So when I feel anger responding, I can just run with it, indulge it, pour fuel on it, or I can choose to just take a pause, breathe into it, recognize that anger is arising without fueling it further, without indulging it. Speak or act in a way that does not reinforce its hold on me. We break that response, we break that habitual response by just putting a pause in there, not fueling it. And this awareness, this practice, becomes especially helpful in our everyday interactions. You know, in conversations, we water seeds all the time without even knowing we're doing it. When we interrupt others, we water impatience. You know, when I don't let you finish and I just sort of run over you, I'm watering impatience. When we gossip, we water the seeds of dwelling on negativity and judging mind. When we speak harshly, we water future regret. Oh, I wish I hadn't done that. But we can also water the opposite seeds. Remember, the Buddha said, I mean, he strongly emphasized personal responsibility. For example, listening to others waters and strengthens compassion. Thoughtful speech waters the seeds of mindfulness. We have to be mindful to go there. Or offering sincere appreciation to another person nourishes and waters warmth and connections. And these small choices accumulate. They create new habits of the mind. They shape how comfortable or uncomfortable we feel within ourselves and how our relationships unfold over time. Now, to be clear, this question, what seeds am I watering, also applies to how we relate to ourselves. Let's don't forget that. You know, often we unconsciously water the seeds of self-criticism, of self-judging. So, for example, a single mistake that I make can become one of the stories I tell myself about not being good enough, about being inadequate. Or a moment of laziness waters the seed of failure that I just can't ever get anything done. But it's only because these seeds have been habitually nourished. Yes, they may have been planted there years ago in our development, years ago in our families, years ago from our parents. But do we have to keep watering them? What if we instead practice understanding? We acknowledge and accept our imperfections, which we all have, but without watering the seeds of condemnation. We begin to water very different seeds, seeds of self-acceptance, seeds of forgiveness, seeds of confidence, seeds of honesty. The list goes on and on. Buddhist practice encourages such a gentle approach, such a self-directed kind approach. And it's not because it's sentimental or touchy-feely or ooey-gooey. It's because harshness just doesn't lead to genuine growth. It doesn't lead to greater happiness. It leads to more suffering. Kindness, however, directed inward as well as outward, both, creates the conditions for healthier seeds to flourish, for our garden to grow and flourish. But answering this question requires mindful awareness. We have to slow down enough to watch what is happening in the present moment. We check in with ourselves throughout the day. What seeds am I watering? I love to carry that question around because often it reminds me to check in. What am I watering right now? Oh, I think I'm watering irritation because someone was going to call me and they haven't called me back and it's 5 minutes over, whatever. We ask ourselves this throughout the day. What am I watering? And thereby, what am I reinforcing right now? What habit of the mind am I strengthening? Is it strengthening something beneficial or is it strengthening something harmful? Now, this is not meant to be a reflection that's heavy or judgmental. That's not why we do it. Oh, darn it, I'm watering that again. What's wrong with me? No, 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 no. But instead, it's meant to guide our attention toward the forces that are shaping our lives day to day. And by extension, shaping our relationships. When we live without this awareness, when we don't take the time to go there, old patterns, old habits of the mind, old seeds continue unchecked. Habits of the mind, these old seeds, do not change without an active effort and intervention on our part. I can't stress that strongly enough. When we begin to notice, we have opened the door. We have created the possibility of choosing a different response. Okay. Now, one practical way to do this, because we can't do this all day long, with the question is to choose one or two qualities. So this week, I'm going to look at what are the seeds of irritation that I'm watering. When is that coming up? What seeds do I want to cultivate instead? What seeds do I want to intentionally water every day around irritation? Or if I wish to grow patience, do I want to practice pausing during small moments of irritation and water the seeds of patience? Waiting in line, sitting in traffic, dealing with small inconveniences, dealing with small annoyances. If I want to grow compassion, I look for opportunities to understand others rather than immediately judging them. I can water the seeds of trying to understand. I wonder why so and so's acting that way. Or I can say, boy, are they being a jerk, and water the seed of judgment. Or if I want to strengthen mindfulness, I can select a simple daily activity such as walking, washing the dishes, brushing my teeth, and do it with full intention, watering the seeds of mindful awareness. Now, yes, these practices are small and may seem insignificant, but I tell you, over time, they reshape our minds in profound ways. This is the practice. The question itself, what seeds am I watering, reminds us to notice the sort of subtle ways we water seeds, the media we consume, what seeds, what I watch and listen to and read, what seeds are they watering? The conversations I participate in, the content of those conversations, what seeds am I watering? The environments I choose to put myself in, what seeds am I watering? And the people I spend time with, They influence the seeds that I'm watering. If we surround ourselves through the media, through relationships, through whatever, with constant negativity or distraction, we're inadvertently watering the very patterns we wish to weaken. We are not doing ourselves any favor. Creating supportive conditions, quiet time, healthy friendships, meaningful activity, purposeful activity. This is what helps beneficial seeds grow naturally. We don't have to force it. All we have to do is shift our attention to watering those seeds. So ultimately, this question, what seeds am I watering, is a way of reclaiming agency over our lives. It is a way of reasserting our ability to shift the direction of our lives. It shifts the focus from reacting, not acting, reacting impulsively, just hair trigger, shooting from the hip, to responding with intention. It supports gradual, steady, but subtle growth rather than sudden, unsustainable change. It's not a quick fix, but it reminds us that transformation does not depend on some extraordinary effort. It depends on a daily check-in with ourselves. What seeds am I watering? The consistent, ordinary act of choosing which seeds to nourish. And the good news is that over time, this practice will produce a garden of the mind that feels more spacious, more kind, more stable, and more at peace. We begin to trust ourselves because we see that we have influence over our inner lives, over what seeds we nourish. Our confidence in is being able to do so increases. We begin to respond to challenges with greater clarity. Excuse me, because we have strengthened the seeds of calm and understanding and self-acceptance. We begin to interact with others more skillfully because the seeds of compassion and patience have grown strong. And I don't raise this question today to burden us, but to empower us, to give us the tools to participate in shaping our own well-being. Every moment offers a choice, however small, because there is a constant flow of responses through the day that we're working with. So every moment when we choose to check in offers a choice, however small. If we choose wisely, we nourish the qualities that lead to wisdom, that lead to joy, that lead to peace, one watered seed at a time. So those are some thoughts today on the question of what seeds am I watering?